I didn't expect my sister to say something so cruel, not in front of everyone, not on the night my daughter had waited for all year. We were sitting in the second row of the auditorium. Leora, my 9-year-old daughter, had just stepped onto the stage. Her hair was pulled back into a neat bun, her blue tutu catching the stage lights. I could see her chest rising and falling quickly. She was nervous, but smiling. She always smiled when she danced. I leaned forward, hands clasped, barely breathing. Then my sister, Camille, tilted her head toward me and said, loud enough for half the row to hear, "She's not even built for ballet. It's embarrassing." My heart dropped. I turned to her, stunned. "What did you just say?" She didn't look at me. Her eyes stayed on Leora like she was critiquing a stranger. "I'm just saying. She's not the right body type. Look at the others. Leora's sweet, but this isn't her thing." I didn't have time to argue. Because right then, Leora heard her. She was in the middle of her arabesque, arms extended, one foot behind the other like we'd practiced at home 100 times. But her head turned. Slowly. She looked straight into the crowd, straight at Camille, and then her eyes met mine. Her face changed. Her smile disappeared. I stood up instinctively just as she faltered. Her knee bent too soon, and her hands dropped to her sides. The music kept playing, but she didn't. Leora stepped backward, turned around, and ran off the stage. She ran so fast her satin ballet slippers squeaked against the floor. Her little feet couldn't carry her away fast enough. The stage lights faded behind her. A few people in the audience gasped. Some whispered. I heard one woman say, "Oh no, what happened?" I didn't wait. I grabbed my purse and followed her, weaving through chairs, ignoring the people I accidentally bumped. I pushed open the side door to the dressing area and found her in the corner, curled up on a folding chair, arms wrapped around her knees. She was crying. Hard. She looked up at me with red cheeks and whispered, "I shouldn't have come. I shouldn't be here." I knelt in front of her, pushing her curls gently out of her face. "Baby, what happened?" She shook her head. "I heard Aunt Camille. She said I'm not built for ballet. Everyone heard her. I did everything right, and she still thinks I'm wrong." My chest tightened. I felt it in my throat. Anger, sadness, helplessness. I wanted to fix it, to undo it all, but I couldn't erase the words Camille had planted like poison. "She doesn't know what she's talking about," I said, trying to stay calm. "She was wrong to say that, and you are not wrong for being here." She made me feel like a joke. "You are not a joke. You are brave. You are talented, and no one gets to take that away from you." She leaned into me and cried harder, her little body trembling. I wrapped my arms around her and held her as tightly as I could without making it worse. That's when I heard the side door open again. A quiet hush fell over the dressing room. I looked up, expecting a teacher or the recital coordinator, but it was someone else, someone unexpected, someone who shouldn't have been there at all, and she was looking straight at us. It started like every other recital day. Chaotic, full of bobby pins, missing shoes, and last-minute panic. Leora was up before I even knocked on her door, already stretching in her pajamas, humming the song she'd be dancing to for the 100th time. It was Claire de Lune, her favorite piece, the one she insisted on using for the spring showcase. She said it made her feel like she was flying. She's only 9, but there's something in her when she dances that makes people stop and stare. It's not perfection. She doesn't have razor-sharp technique, but she dances with a kind of joy you can't fake. When she moves, she believes it, and when she believes, so do you. We live in a quiet part of Oregon. It's not a big dance town. Our studio is small, 2 mirrored rooms above a hardware store, but the teachers care. Miss Katie, her coach, once told me that Leora reminded her of herself as a child, not because she was flawless, but because she danced like she had something to say. Leora and I are a team. Her father hasn't been around since she was 3. There's no drama there, just silence. She doesn't ask about him often. When she does, I give her what truth I can. Mostly, it's just been the 2 of us. I work full-time at a local dental clinic, and she knows how to pack her own snacks and carry her own dance bag. She's growing up fast, but she still wants me backstage for every show. We arrived at the community center just before noon. She was buzzing with nerves, her hands cold, cheeks pink. I helped her into her costume in the crowded dressing room. Little girls in sequins ran around squealing, the smell of hairspray already thick in the air. Leora stood still while I pinned her bun and adjusted her tutu. "Are you nervous?" I asked. She shrugged. "A little, but mostly excited. I want to show them how I feel when I dance." I kissed her forehead. "You will." Camille arrived 15 minutes before the show started. My sister is everything I'm not. Poised, polished, the kind of woman who makes people sit up straighter when she enters a room. She danced competitively in high school, made it all the way to a regional scholarship program. She didn't go professional, but she never really let go of the world. Ballet lives in the way she walks, the way she talks, and the way she critiques everyone without blinking. When I saw her walking toward us in the hallway, heels clicking against the tile, my stomach tightened. We hadn't spoken much lately. She said she'd come to support Leora, but I was already bracing for a comment, some offhand remark that would sting more than it should. She hugged Leora briefly, smiled, and said, "You look lovely." Leora beamed. "Thanks, Auntie Camille." Then Camille turned to me and said in a lower voice, "Is she doing a classical piece?" I nodded. "Claire de Lune." Camille's mouth twitched. "That's ambitious." I let it go. I wasn't going to argue with her minutes before curtain. We made our way to our seats. Camille sat beside me, her legs crossed, watching the stage like she was a judge at a competition. I tried to focus on the dancers. The lights were dim, the audience hushed. I looked for Leora behind the curtain. I could just see the edge of her tutu as she waited for her cue. Then the music started. She walked onto the stage slowly, gracefully, arms curved, head high. Her face was serious but calm. Felt a wave of pride rise in my chest. This was her moment. She'd worked so hard for this. Weeks of practice after school, tired feet, sore calves, skipping birthday parties and movie nights to rehearse. I'd watched her fall asleep in her leotard some nights, clutching a stuffed animal in one hand and a rolled-up floor routine in the other. This was supposed to be her moment to shine, to feel seen, to prove to herself that she could do this, even if she didn't look like the other girls, even if her thighs didn't taper like the ones in the dance magazines Camille used to leave around the house when we were kids. And for a few perfect seconds, she was dancing. She was flying, until my sister opened her mouth and brought everything crashing down. Leora had just begun her solo. The spotlight framed her small figure as she moved into the opening pose. One arm extended, one foot pointed behind, chin lifted. The music began to rise, and so did she, turning slowly, toes gliding across the polished wood floor. Every movement was fluid and careful. She was fully in it. Her posture, her timing, her focus, it was all there. I leaned forward slightly in my seat, hands clasped. I could feel my heart pounding, not out of fear, but out of pride. She was doing it. All the self-doubt, all the worry. It had faded the moment her foot hit that stage. Then Camille leaned toward me again. "She's not even built for ballet. It's embarrassing." She didn't whisper. She didn't lower her voice. It was just loud enough for the people around us to hear. The woman in front of us glanced back. Someone to our left shifted in their seat. I froze. The words landed in my stomach like ice water. For a second, I couldn't speak. I looked at her, hoping I'd misunderstood. "What?" I asked, too shocked to hide the disbelief in my voice. Camille crossed her arms, eyes fixed on the stage. "I'm just being honest," she said. "She's sweet, but this isn't her thing. She doesn't have the right lines. You know how this world works." I felt the heat rise in my chest. I wanted to scream at her, but before I could respond, I saw it. Leora had stopped moving. She stood there, frozen mid-step, eyes wide and locked on our section of the audience. Her expression had changed. She looked confused at first, then hurt. Her arms dropped, her body tensed. The music continued without her, filling the auditorium like nothing was wrong. But I could see everything had changed. She looked straight at Camille, then at me, and then she ran. She didn't walk off stage. She didn't bow or smile or cover it up. She turned and bolted, her slippers squeaking against the stage as she disappeared behind the curtain. Gasps rippled through the room. The lights kept shining on an empty stage. I shot up from my seat, nearly knocking over my chair. "Leora," I called softly, already stepping into the aisle. Camille didn't move. She stared straight ahead like nothing had happened. I rushed past other parents, my heart racing. I pushed through the side door and found my daughter in the dressing room, sitting on a folding chair near the back wall, her arms hugging her knees. She looked so small. Her face was red and streaked with tears. Her makeup was smudged. She wouldn't meet my eyes. I knelt in front of her, gently resting my hand on her leg. "Hey, I'm here." She looked up slowly. Her voice cracked. "She thinks I don't belong up there." I didn't ask who. We both knew. She thinks I look wrong, like I'm not good enough to be on the same stage. I pulled her into my arms. Her body trembled against mine. "She was wrong to say that," I whispered. "She had no right. But she danced, right? She knows ballet. She used to be really good. What if she's right? She's not. She may have danced, but she doesn't see what I see in you, what your teachers see, what everyone in that room saw before she opened her mouth." Leora sniffled. "I tried so hard. I wanted them to feel something." "They did. You made me feel everything. You were beautiful, baby." I held her tighter. Her costume crinkled against my jacket. The room was quiet except for the sound of kids whispering outside the door and the faint music still playing on stage. Then Camille stepped into the doorway. She didn't say anything. She just stood there, watching us. Her mouth pressed into a thin line. I stared at her. "You should leave." She opened her mouth like she was going to explain herself, but then she turned and walked away. I looked back at Leora. Her head rested on my shoulder. Her hands were clenched into fists, her whole body still tense. She whispered, "I want to go home." I nodded slowly. I started reaching for my phone to text the recital coordinator. That's when the door opened again. This time it wasn't Camille. It was someone else. Someone unexpected. And the room changed. The door opened again, and for a second I thought it was just another parent looking for their child. But the way the room went quiet told me something was different. Everyone turned. A tall woman stood in the doorway. She wore black jeans, a gray hoodie, and white sneakers. Nothing about her outfit screamed celebrity. But the way people reacted, I knew she was someone. The room shifted. Kids stopped talking. One of the older girls gasped and whispered her name. "Is that Jayla Reyes?" It was. Jayla Reyes. The Jayla Reyes. One of the most famous contemporary dancers in the country. I'd seen her on TV, on streaming shows, in ads for dancewear. She had millions of followers. She'd performed on national stages, choreographed for music videos, and mentored dancers across the world. She wasn't from Oregon. She didn't live anywhere near us. She stepped inside like she knew exactly where she was going. "Hi," she said to one of the teachers by the door. "Sorry to interrupt. I'm looking for a dancer, a girl in a blue tutu. Her name's Leora, I think." I stood up slowly. My arm was still around my daughter. "That's her," I said. My voice was hoarse from crying, but steady. Jayla looked at me, then at Leora, who was still curled up in the chair. Her expression softened. "I saw a clip of her dancing on Instagram," she said. "Someone posted a rehearsal from last week. I was scrolling late one night and it popped up. I watched it 3 times. I screenshotted it and sent it to my manager. I said, 'Find this kid.' I had no idea she'd be here today." I stared at her, stunned. Leora slowly raised her head. Her eyes were swollen, her face streaked with tears. But she was listening. Jayla crouched down in front of her. "You moved like the music lived inside your body," she said. "That's not something you can teach. It's something you're born with." Leora didn't say anything at first. She just blinked, confused. "I messed up," she whispered. Jayla smiled gently. "Do you know how many times I've messed up on stage? Hundreds. And you know what I learned? Messing up doesn't mean you failed. It means you cared. It means you were vulnerable. That's what makes a real dancer." Leora looked at me, then back at Jayla. "You're really her?" she asked, her voice small. Jayla nodded. "I'm really me. And I really saw you dance. And I meant it when I said you have something special." I felt my chest tighten, not from pain, but from something else. Gratitude, relief, the kind of emotion that builds when someone sees your child the way you've always seen them and says it out loud for the world to hear. Leora wiped her nose with the back of her hand. She looked down at her ballet slippers, then back at the doorway. Is it too late to go back out? I shook my head. You can go if you want to. They haven't closed the program yet. Jayla stood up and offered her hand. Let me walk you out. I think they're waiting. Leora looked up at me for reassurance. Only if you feel ready, I said. She nodded. Her voice was quiet but firm. I want to finish. I helped her to her feet. Her hair was messy now, her makeup a little smudged, but it didn't matter. She looked stronger than she had when she first stepped on stage, like something inside her had changed. Jayla walked beside her, hand gently on her back. We made our way toward the hallway. As we reached the edge of the stage entrance, the coordinator met us with wide eyes. Is she going back on? Yes, I said. She's ready now. Jayla smiled. Give her the music, let her start fresh. The coordinator nodded and rushed to the sound booth. The lights dimmed again. The crowd, still murmuring from the earlier interruption, fell silent as the first notes of Claire de Lune began again. And this time, when Leora stepped back onto the stage, she wasn't dancing to prove anything. She was dancing because she remembered who she was, and everyone in that auditorium could feel it. Leora stood center stage. This time, her steps were quiet but confident. The lights warmed her skin. Her arms moved gracefully into position, her chin lifted. The opening notes of Claire de Lune floated through the auditorium. No one in the audience made a sound. I sat back down in my seat, breath caught in my throat. Jayla stood near the side of the stage, arms crossed, watching. Camille had returned to her seat but hadn't said a word since. She sat stiff, arms folded, eyes locked on the stage. Leora began to dance. She didn't rush. She didn't hesitate. She moved with intention. Every step, every turn, every extension of her fingers was full of feeling. It wasn't about precision anymore. It wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about finishing what she had started, on her terms. Her foot arched and pressed into the floor, gliding with control as she turned in slow pirouettes. She reached upward, holding poses longer than she ever had in rehearsal. Her back curved like she was lifting her whole body toward the sky. She wasn't performing. She was telling a story. Her story. The audience leaned in. There were no fidgeting programs, no side conversations. People watched with stillness, as if afraid to blink. I glanced at Camille. Her expression had changed. Her jaw was clenched, but her eyes were glossy. Whether it was regret or surprise, I didn't know. Maybe both. She looked like someone who had just realized how wrong she had been and didn't know how to undo the damage. When the music reached its softest moment, Leora paused at the edge of the stage. Her arms unfolded slowly, gently, like a wave rolling back into the ocean. Then she stepped forward, her final pose blooming outward like a flower opening in full light. The music faded. For a beat, the room was silent. Then the entire auditorium erupted in applause. It wasn't polite. It wasn't obligatory. It was loud, full, real. People stood. Parents clapped with both hands. Kids cheered. Even a few teachers wiped their eyes. Jayla stepped forward and clapped with a slow, steady rhythm, smiling with pride. The judge, who had been seated quietly near the tech booth, stood up. She was a stern-looking woman in her 60s, dressed in black, her silver hair pulled into a tight braid. She rarely showed emotion during events. But now she walked forward, stopped near the edge of the stage, and spoke directly into her microphone. I wasn't planning to say anything today, she said, but after what I just witnessed, I need to speak. The room quieted again. I've judged hundreds of recitals. I've watched countless young dancers, but what I just saw reminded me why I fell in love with dance in the first place. It wasn't flawless technique that moved me. It was courage. That young dancer came back on stage after something painful, and she danced not out of pride, but out of love. That is what ballet is meant to be. She turned to face the stage more directly. Leora, you have a gift, and it's not just in your movement. It's in your heart. Don't let anyone try to define what you should look like or how far you can go. You already showed us what greatness looks like. Leora's lips parted in surprise. Her hands were clasped in front of her chest. For a moment, she looked stunned. Then she smiled. Not a big performative grin, but something deeper. The kind of smile that said she finally believed it for herself. She stepped back, curtsied deeply, then exited the stage with her head held high. I met her in the wings. She ran into my arms, tears still fresh but full of joy this time. "I did it," she whispered. "You did more than that," I said. "You showed them who you are." Jayla walked up behind us and placed her hand gently on Leora's shoulder. "I meant what I said. If you ever want to train in Los Angeles, I'll make sure you're seen." Leora blinked. "Really?" Jayla nodded. "I don't offer that to just anyone." Camille approached slowly. She looked at me, then at Leora. "I owe you an apology," she said. "I was wrong." Leora didn't answer. She just nodded politely and turned back toward me. She didn't need Camille's validation anymore. She had found something better. She had found her voice. After the recital, the parking lot was lit by the soft orange glow of the setting sun. Parents gathered near their cars, still buzzing about the performances. Some were taking photos, others were hugging their kids and handing them flowers. Leora clutched a small bouquet one of her classmates had given her and kept looking up at me like she couldn't quite believe everything that had just happened. "I thought today was going to be the worst day," she said, her voice still hoarse from crying earlier. "But it turned out kind of perfect." "It wasn't perfect," I said. "It was real. And that made it beautiful." She smiled and leaned against me. I could feel how tired she was, not just physically, but emotionally. Her eyes were puffy, her shoulders finally relaxed. She had carried the weight of that moment all on her own and came out stronger for it. We walked to the car in silence for a few steps. Then we heard footsteps behind us. Camille. She walked up slowly, one hand wrapped around her purse strap, the other dangling awkwardly at her side. She looked uncomfortable, not defensive, just unsure. That was rare for her. "I just wanted to say something," she said. Leora stood quietly, half shielded behind me. "I shouldn't have said what I said. It wasn't fair, and it wasn't true. You danced beautifully. I was wrong." Leora didn't say anything right away. She looked at me, then back at Camille. "Okay," she said quietly. Camille nodded, her face tight with regret, then turned and walked away without another word. We got in the car. As I buckled my seatbelt, I looked in the rearview mirror. Leora was staring out the window, holding the flowers in her lap. "Do you want to talk about it?" I asked. She shook her head. "Number, I just want to remember the good parts." I nodded. That felt right. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat on the couch and thought about everything that had happened. I thought about the months of practice, the years of watching her twirl through the living room, the sound of her laughter when she danced barefoot in the kitchen. I thought about how close she had come to giving up and how one stranger had walked in at the exact right moment and reminded her she mattered. But more than anything, I thought about the strength it took for her to go back out there. Not because I asked her to, not because someone expected it, but because she wanted to finish what she started. That kind of strength isn't taught in dance class. It comes from inside. It comes from being hurt and standing up anyway. There are 1,000 ways a child can be discouraged. One careless comment, one rolled eye, one muttered insult can burrow deep and fester. But there are also 1,000 ways a child can be lifted. One kind word, one second chance, one person believing in them when they need it most. That day, my daughter learned what it means to fight for herself, and I learned what it means to truly protect her. It's not just about standing up to the people who hurt her. It's about helping her see the light inside herself when someone tries to dim it. It's about reminding her that her body, her voice, her art, none of it needs to meet someone else's standard to be valid. She doesn't need to be built for ballet. Ballet needs to be rebuilt to hold girls like her. Since that recital, Leora hasn't stopped dancing. She practices more now, but she also dances more freely. She experiments. She improvises. She no longer imitates her idols. She creates her own style. Jayla followed through on her promise. She connected us with a virtual mentorship program, and Leora now trains with professional choreographers every other week. She's found her people, and she's found her place. If there's anything I would say to another parent watching this, it's this. Your child's dream is fragile in the beginning. Treat it like something sacred. Guard it. Nurture it. Speak life into it. Because while one voice can shatter a moment, one believer can build a future. And when your child steps into their light, make sure you're not just watching. Make sure you're clapping the loudest. Thank you for listening to our story. If it moved you, if it made you think about the power of words or the strength inside a child who chooses to rise, please give this video a like. It helps more people find stories like this one. Share it with someone who might need to hear it. A parent, a teacher, a kid chasing a dream. And if you've ever had a moment where someone doubted you and you proved them wrong, tell us in the comments. I'd love to hear your story too. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more real, powerful moments like this. We've got more stories coming that will stay with you long after the video ends. Until next time, keep believing in yourself and never underestimate the impact of showing up for the people you love.